Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and of course, Castelia House. Thanks for tuning in. So, there's an awful lot going on. There's so much going on with regards to foreign policy and to this I don't even know what to call it. Secret war, hidden war, whatever. It's obvious that Q is at least partially legit. Certainly, he was talking about Korea, he was talking about Syria, and he was talking about Iran long before any of this stuff was known to the public. So, whether it's somebody LARPing, whether it's somebody who's actually involved in this stuff, or whether it's somebody who's simply being leaked this stuff, we have no idea, no way of knowing. But what we do know is that it is functionally legitimate. I don't pay any attention to Wichter myself. I'd read a couple things Wichter had written that were just obviously not true, and so I think there's certainly reason to be dubious. I think it's pretty obvious that there are multiple Qs. That's pretty typical with these kind of things, and I get the impression that there's probably one or two that really know what's going on, and the other two are just kind of keeping the flame stoked, as it were. And it's true. I mean, this is, the thing is, whether what Q is saying is completely true or not is to a certain extent irrelevant, because, no matter what happens, this is the beginning. Every day is the beginning of what history is going to write. What's important is that we are finally seeing the holistic nature of all this stuff. People have been saying, well, why isn't Donald Trump focusing on draining the swamp? Well, he is. But how can you drain the swamp if the swamp is based in Saudi Arabia, or if it's based in North Korea? People don't seem to understand that you can't simply take action when you don't even know who you can count on. If you look at what was he supposed to do? Use the FBI to arrest people that they knew were criminals? How could he have used the FBI to do it when the FBI was entirely corrupted? First things first. You've got to lay the groundwork before you can take action. But the reality is that we've already seen an incredible amount of action anyhow. Think about how many thousands of people have been arrested, already. And look at the number of officials at the FBI who have been who have either been removed from power or been arrested or are under investigation, etc., etc. So there's an awful lot that's going on. Yes, I can understand that it's frustrating. I can understand that it's annoying. I can understand that it's difficult. But to wait and not see, we all want everything to get fixed in one big fell swoop. But that's not the way the real world works. You can't just, if you think about it, in historical terms, think of it as D-Day, okay? D-Day didn't take place the day after Eisenhower decided, we're going to invade the coast of Normandy. It took well over a year. It took, I think, close to 2 years for them to actually put the whole thing together. That is the scale. I mean, actually, in some ways, that was a smaller scale undertaking than what we're seeing the Trump administration undertake right now. My opinion is that Sessions is quietly working. I've been dubious about him too. I had posted, I was really annoyed when Sessions made some statement about, drugs or something. My attitude, this is my old libertarian instincts kicking in, but it was like, why are you wasting time on talking about, drugs again, like Nancy Reagan, with all the stuff's going on? Well, what I've realized now is that it's entirely possible that the drug angle has something to do with the swamp. They're getting their money from somewhere. So, it's hard. The main thing is that we don't know, and we have to be patient, and we have to let these folks do their work. Because if you think about it, we are seeing massive results now. Look at what we've seen with regards to Syria. Look at what we've seen with regards to North Korea. Look at what we've saw today with regards to Iran. And the trail with Iran definitely leads to other places. The uranium will get traced. The uranium that the Iranians were using illicitly is in Syria is going to get traced. And now we know why they were, why Trump was focused on bombing Syria. And we probably also know why the Russians were willing to let it go. It's all very, there's this, it's kind of funny. When people are talking about how they are frightened of the global elite, they talk about them as if they're all powerful and everywhere, right? So if that's even 10% true, then obviously it's going, any counter elite action is going to take time, and it is going to be a very large undertaking, and it's going to be a global one. It has to be, by definition. And so, I think that we have now seen enough to know that this is real. I think your view about the U.S. not having a dog in this fight is wildly and ludicrously wrong. That's what I was just telling you. You're opposed to the globalists. You're opposed to all these things, but it doesn't have anything. It has everything to do with the states. No, I think that's what I mean about Iran. If you look at the amount of money that was involved, if you look at the involvement of the European Union, if you look at what was happening in Ukraine, in Algeria, and all those other places, all these things are connected. Now, I don't know how. I don't spend really, I'm not an expert. I don't know anybody involved in this stuff. And frankly, I don't spend very much time thinking about it. I'm too busy. But what is obvious is that, it's kind of like Dirk Gently's detective agency. The holistic interconnectedness of all things. And the whole bit about the chaos theory and the butterfly effect. that applies to this. Exactly. This is all part of the same thing. And it's very confusing, of course, because you've got people using deception on both sides. And so that's why I think it's foolish to get caught up in trying to figure it all out. You're not going to figure it out. So the important thing is support the good guys. Support the God Emperor. Support the people that Trump tells you are good guys. This is not fourth generation war per se. This is this has more to do with conspiracy theory than war, directly. So, but the thing that you need to understand about this, if you think about it, is that all of this is very relevant to the Christian worldview. Now, I realize that may sound like it's coming from out of left field, but it's not. We get told, as Christians, we're told that the battle is not of this world. It's literally a battle between good and evil. We're told that evil rules the world. And now we're actually seeing what that means. What that means with regards to the puppet strings that are connected and being pulled, and so forth. So, I'm quite confident that there's going to be a positive outcome out of this. Do I think the Iranian state is an actual threat to the U.S. directly? Well, I didn't, but I do think that it could have, if they were able to either build or buy a bomb, it could have been used as a false flag. It could have been used on either the U.S. or Russia as a false flag. That would have been my main concern. But in terms of being concerned about Iran directly and openly attacking the United States, no. Iran was never any sort of threat. If you're going to lose sleep over that, lose sleep over Pakistan first. Did Obama's payoff contribute directly to helping Iran's nuke program? Almost certainly. Money is fungible. If they were spending money on it, which I assume they were, then Obama provided material support to them. Someone asked a question earlier about, do I think that we're going to see U.S. officials being arrested? And yes, I do. I think that is going to happen, and I think it is going to happen probably this year. Probably before the 2018 elections. I don't know about Obama and Hillary. There was someone, I don't remember who it was, maybe Conservative Treehouse, maybe Anonymous Conservative. No, I'm not going to get involved into predictions. I don't have any information. That my opinion is useless. But somebody was saying the interesting thing is what the effect is going to be if the Russians and the Chinese end up getting involved. I suspect, if you recall, when we were talking about Syria a long time ago, I thought it was mostly a distraction covering up from North Korea. But it's very clear that the Chinese are cooperating very positively with the Trump administration. It's less clear that the Russians are, but certainly the Russians are not obstructing anything. And so, and if you recall, back when we were talking about those first Syrian missile strikes that had upset Mike Cernovich and some others quite a bit. And I was saying, I think there's more to it, and we're not invading Syria, et cetera, and that turned out to be correct. But if you recall, I pointed out that there was something that had clearly upset the Chinese enough that they were backing off what you would have expected to be a confrontational position versus the United States. Something had happened. I thought maybe it had something to do with North Korea itself. But now what we're seeing is that whatever's been going on with the deep state is something that didn't just threaten the United States, but also threatened China and definitely also threatened Russia. The Saker and some other Russian observers have been freaking out for the past month or so. Thinking, this is, war between Russia and the U.S. Now, I never believed that. I think that what we're seeing with Russia gearing up and that sort of thing, I don't believe that they're gearing up for any sort of war with the U.S. I think that Russia, China, and the Trump administration are all dealing with the deep state in their own way. And so that's something you need to keep in mind, is that Trump is clearly not alone in this. We know he's got allies in Saudi Arabia. We know they're working positively with China, or the Korean situation would never have played out as far as it has. And we know that there is, at the very least, what they call deconfliction going on between the U.S. military and the Russian military. If you think about it, we know for sure that there are actual channels between those two. Well, the deep state threatens Russia and China more seriously than it threatens the U.S. It controlled the U.S., so its main goal was to attempt to break Russia and bring it into line. That's why there's sanctions on Russia. That's why the Russians and the Chinese have set up this alternative to the banking system, because they don't want to be part of the U.S. banking system. And so, you have to keep in mind that the neoliberal world order is failing. We know it's failing. The architects of the neoliberal world order know it's failing. I've read Henry Kissinger's most recent book. They openly talk about the fact that, they're openly fretting about the fact that the structure that they set up beginning in the 50s is now outmoded, falling apart, no longer applicable to what is increasingly becoming, again, a multipolar world. You have to keep in mind that back in 1989, they thought they'd won forever. They thought that the Soviet Union was done, China was irrelevant, China was democratizing and becoming more like us, etc., etc. And so that clearly didn't play out that way. So anyhow, this is all, we're living through some incredibly interesting times. I think it's going to be fascinating, to read the histories of what's going on when some of the players actually get a chance to write about it. And so, I wish I had more access, just so that I could, write one of the histories of it. I hope actually someday I'll get the chance to. because I think that these are going to be some of the, this is one of the more interesting epochs in history that we've ever seen. And so it's kind of an exciting time just to read the news. I mean, my gosh, the last week alone has had more huge international news than practically anything we've seen, since 1989 or so. So anyhow, that's all I have. On some other unrelated notes, I don't know if you've seen Voxday yet, but you should definitely check it out. The most recent one, The Last Closet, is on a very important issue. I think you'll find it moving. A lot of people have. Also, we've just released a new novel. It's called War Dogs Incorporated #2, Hunter Killer. There's an excerpt on the blog if you want to get a taste of it. It's basically fast-moving action military sci-fi. So I think you'll enjoy it. And that's pretty much it. So have a good evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Man, I can't turn this thing off.